to episode 2 of Star Trek Zhuzh-erations. I am one of your hosts, Sean Ferrick, and joining me, as always, is the wonderful Jack Tracy. Hello, Jack,
Hi.
how are you?
Hi, everybody. From my ready room to yours, we're
know.
going to review another subpar episode.
I will
Boy,
not hear a word against this titan of the Star Trek franchise, Jack.
Right. So, if for those of you who are just checking in now and haven't checked out episode 1 yet, last week at the end of our episode, Sean Ferrick assaulted me with a drudgery of a TOS episode called Shore Leave, which is what we'll be reviewing today. And I have to say, just off the bat, not to steal from one of your other shows, but I'm giving a down to the lack of ghost candle fucking.
And actually, of all of the TOS episodes, this would lend itself quite well to ghost candle fucking.
Yes, and I think that is how we should rate these episodes going forward, by like the amount of ghost candle sex. Yeah.
Oh my god, yes, that is it. All right, you heard it here first, everyone. Episode 2 of Star Trek Zhuzh-erations. We have said we will rate it. How we will rate it even. How many ghost candle fucking out of 10?
I give this episode 4 ghost candles.
Oh my god, I love this so much.
So for those of you who get the video of this on, I don't know, it'll probably be on Patreon or something, maybe YouTube. I do have a series of props. You, of course, have a million. You've got a Horgon. I've got the Resican flute. But we do need to contact somebody. If you are someone who does like 3D printing or anything like that, and you can make us a set of ghost candles, we'll pay. We'll pay.
Yep.
So like, reach out to us on the socials. I want ghost candle sex.
Absolutely. Also, just want to pick up on that really quickly, because that is the very, very interesting choice for word there. By saying we'll pay, it sounds really like, oh my god, thank you so much. If you say you'll pay, it becomes really threatening. It's like almost the same sentence, but just with a different inflection. If you could make some ghost candles, you'll pay,
and you will pay. All right. Well, there are no ghost candles in this episode, but why don't you talk us through what actually is in this episode? Because this is probably the first TOS episode I have sat down and watched straight through in one sitting, not doing anything else in, I don't know, 20 years.
That's really interesting because, okay, right, so we'll address all of that really, really quickly. The plot of the episode, which is both super complicated and also wafer thin. So the Enterprise rocks up to a planet that seems to be empty but idyllic. So they're going, great, this is a great place for the crew to get some R&R. Kirk is stressed to the nines and is there getting felt up on the bridge by his yeoman, who he is then disappointed to find is not Spock. Just for all of you Kirk Spock shippers out there.
I do love that the person who points out that this is a problem, that female yeoman is putting her hands on the captain, is the captain. Like when they realize the sexism within the episode, it's always the man schooling the woman on like now. Cringe.
Actually, in fairness, let's say up front, this episode does not pass in the post Me Too at all. At all. So I suspect some of this will be fixed in when we are judging the episode up. I know Jack wants to dial up the amount of sexism in it, but I'll probably dial it back a little bit.
I just eliminated all the women altogether. There are no women in the episode. Aurora's played by a drag queen.
Moving swiftly along. So they go down to the planet, and McCoy thinks he is office rocker when he first of all talks about Alice in Wonderland, and then suddenly sees the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland in a fairly good suit from the 1960s, I'll say, and followed immediately by Alice, who I must stress, this young actor is obviously a very nice young person who's doing their best, but is clearly from the American Midwest and was once told that England exists. And that's how you should rate her accent when she attempts to do an English accent. But very nice young person, clearly trying their best.
Can't wait till you get to the Irish accents. Can't wait till
Anyway.
you get to the Irish accents. Star Trek hates Irish people. I don't know if you've realized, but every time it's that little like corny Irish music and it's like "Where are me lucky charms?" Like Star Trek hates Irish people. Up the long ladder. This Star Trek hates
Oh,
Irish people.
like Finnegan skedaddled so that up the long ladder could skedoodle. It's shocking. It's shocking, Jack.
All right,
There's
let's keep moving. Let's keep moving.
this
Get past
this episode. It's really more of a collection of vignettes, if I'm honest, right? So we have
mhm.
Sulu faces off against a samurai because, of course, he does. 1960s. How are you? McCoy is killed by a black knight, which is pretty shocking and almost immediately sort of forgotten in the episode. We actually have in this episode, which I will point out to its strength, is there's some guests of the week who actually get stuff to do. It's not amazing stuff to do, but it's not just the main trio in this episode. Like we have the yeoman, we have Rodriguez, and we have a character who, God bless her, she gets lines, but she is so forgettable. I forgot her name, and the episode forgot to explain how she came back at the end of the episode. She's just standing beside Rodriguez after having been killed by a Japanese Zero plane.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I assume that she comes back she comes back the same way McCoy comes back, like body dragged off and reconstructed. I assume.
Sure, 100%. But literally to the point of like in the edit, she's not there, then she is.
Right.
No one like addresses the fact that she's back. No one addresses the fact that she's alive. It's just like, and even when they're talking about it, it's, oh my god, the death of my surgeon. I guess that yeoman can just go kind of fuck herself then. So apologies. But yeah, Kirk goes down to get shore leave. Very quickly they find out that this probably isn't the planet you should be having shore leave on until they decide it is. There's tigers. There's Finnegan. Jack. I mean,
did you realize this? Did you remember this was in this when you suggested the episode? Or
I remember it not being as bad. I remember, so I was like yourself. I was so much younger when I saw this, because my first big rewatch of the original, series, I was a nipper. Now I did do a rewatch recently, so confession, I have seen Shore Leave in the last few weeks actually, and I mean just Finnegan. So this is one of those many. Yeah, go.
Does the existence of Miles O'Brien make up for Shore Leave and Up the Long Ladder as an Irish person?
Make up for? No.
No.
But it goes a long way towards Star Trek apologizing to the Irish.
Because Miles wasn't very fiddly dee.
Miles was as far from fiddly dee as you can get, and in fact, just tiny little sidebar. An episode of DS9's first season, If Wishes Were Horses,
was going to
be yes, you've got it. Yes, there we go. So yes, and I like the fact that Colomini said, "Haha, no."
and oh, sorry, I cut you off because I know the answer to that, but maybe our listeners don't. So what was Wishes for Horses going to be?
Wishes for Horses, a race of aliens. It's a race of aliens basically scans the minds of several of the DS9 crew members and projects creatures from their imagination as a way of getting to know them. One of which is Rumpelstiltskin, but originally was going to be a leprechaun. And Colomini was just like, yeah, it's me or the fella in the hat.
But I have this in my notes not for that purpose, but because I feel this episode is very If Wishes Were Horses, and this episode also has moments of, oh god, I don't know the now drag me for not being a true fan, but I'm gonna just say a series of ones and zeros, 1 1 0 0 1 1 1 1, because of the minuet portion is very Ruth.
Yes, Ruth.
All right, but that's a good transition to finishing the recap of this episode, which we keep getting delayed from.
A recap of this episode. So, collection of vignettes. They eventually figure it out. McCoy's actually fine. Oh, look, there's the crewman back. No one cares.
Right.
And Kirk, who created Finnegan in one instance, also created this character, Ruth, who he had known years previously. She gets arguably more fleshing out than Antonia did in Star Trek Generations.
I have Antonia in my notes.
I tell you, we are one. We are one.
And if we make enough on our Patreon and I get to fly over there, we can be one in more ways than one. Um,
I will say it right now. We will film it. It will be available.
I haven't agreed to that quite yet, but we can talk about maybe for the Patreons. I don't know. I don't know if I can still be a lawyer after putting that on the internet. Anyway, this episode. You see how boring this episode is that we are finding any reason to not talk about this episode.
Do you know what? Even like I was just before we came on record, I was rewatching it again, and I sent you a message, and I went,
Why would you
"My
do
God,
that?
this episode drags," and it does.
But they
Because
all
there's
do.
I won't say they all do. No, there. Trust me, there is much. This is a good episode for judging because there is
Mm.
much stronger episodes of the original series. The pacing is tighter. The pacing is dreadful on this
Right.
episode.
So to finish up the recap, what's the big reveal? What's the mystery? How do we all
It's
these
Star Trek's first
mystical
holodeck.
people? Right.
There we go. Like it's a psychic holodeck, but it's Star Trek first holodeck. That's what it is.
So it's a race
Now
of, and it's also very. I keep bringing up this episode as if I like love this episode, but it's also very Arsenal of Freedom. They're on this planet and there's like this machine going or whatever, and it's the race of people who are scanning brains, creating fantasies, but it's not the holodeck because they're actual like androids. They're
Yeah.
plastic metal people, so it's not holograms. So to me, that says, why couldn't anybody notice that? Like, Kirk was within inches of Ruth. He didn't see that she was like a toy?
Or
I,
Finnegan, Ruth or Finnegan.
or Finnegan. He
Yeah.
punched it. He didn't feel that it was. See, that gets into my judge. But um um yeah. So then this caretaker. Star Trek loves the word caretaker. This
Yes.
caretaker comes out and is like, "Yo, this is a planet where it's like a Risa. It's like a holodeck Risa."
Yes. Yeah. That would be a perfect description, I think.
Right. And the end of the episode, they're like, what? Like, oh, ha ha ha. You killed McCoy. Whoopsie daisy. Oh, well. Why don't we stay here? Well, we should go up to the ship. Oh, look, there's Ruth. I could probably still bang that robot. Ha ha ha. End of episode.
Exactly. And also, there's a glaring issue. A glaring issue. Just because they know how the planet works.
Hmm.
Have you ever heard of intrusive thoughts? You're having a lovely afternoon. You're having a picnic. Hey, I wonder what happened that time with Jack the Ripper. Whoops.
Right. Well, we have that with Don Juan,
Exactly.
who sexually assaults Barrow. Unclear. Her dress is ripped. It's unclear what he did to her.
And also keeps coming back.
Yeah. So, to transition into the things we liked about this episode. So, one, the concept is great in theory because episodes like this give a sci-fi way to delve into the inner thoughts, motivations, and backstories of our characters. So when done correctly, you can get an episode that really like explores a struggle or an internal thing that you don't sort of get in your general like action adventure episode or like mystery episode. You can actually like dig into and like build these characters. Now this episode doesn't do that, but because we're thinking of Alice in Wonderland and Tigers, but you could have been thinking about they could have been, Kirk does it, but everyone else like things from their past or something they're obsessed with. The death of a crew member, like there's from a previous episode. There's ways that this format can really like enhance all of the characters. So I like it as a concept. William Shatner's acting is great. He gets shit all the time. He's good in this episode.
I will say, and I think we've talked about this before, that having gone back and rewatched the original series recently,
yeah,
Shatner's reputation, it's not fair.
No.
The stilted speech of Shatner, that is completely, it's been blown way out of proportion. It's not to say it's perfect, but none of them are. None of them are perfect in this. And like, pick any character, and there's episodes of good acting and bad acting. Kirk, honestly, he's quite solid, and you're dead right, particularly in this episode.
Yeah. I have no problem with William Shatner. I also really liked aspects of the cinematography. There's a particular shot when they're outside, and it's sort of like a low angle tracking shot. It's not quite West Wing, but it's like a low angle tracking shot that they follow them with. I always love that shot because it makes things feel more cinematic. Like there was some really good cinematography in this that I liked. And I also appreciate that they were actually outdoors and not on. Now, were they in a public park and like trying to film around a jungle gym? Sure, but
100%.
but was that girl from Alice in Wonderland just a kid with her mom, like on the merry-go-round? They're like, "Hey, come be Alice." Sure, but I do appreciate that they actually went outside and they just didn't do this on like whenever I think of like shitty sound stages as outdoors, I always think of Hide and Q,
Oh yes,
where it's
yes.
just like mountain range, color sky, end of list. Like, oof,
Th-
oof.
that is something that is so unfortunate. Yeah, TOS and TNG. TOS benefits a little bit from the remaster. TNG, I don't think it hurts it, but I don't think it massively benefits it. They were able to add some effects in the
Right.
remaster, but you're right. It gives it a sense of scale that it's hard to do on a starship because a starship is designed in corridors and smaller rooms.
Right.
Whereas there's one shot in this where Kirk is running away from Finnegan, and this is when they're still down in the green before they go to the rocks, and
Mhm.
it's quite a wide angle shot. And Jinahan, whatever this character is jumping around like a madman in the back, and
Mhm.
Kirk is running and running and running. But the fact is, he has the room to do that, and that is
Yes.
something you don't often see in Trek. Because even when we do space shots, and when it gets to kind of DS9 Voyager era, and you got to have a bit more fun with that,
Mhm.
still scale is hard. It's the one thing where it's the one thing Star Wars does better than Star Trek is scale.
Well, well, well.
Sorry,
Star
go on. Sorry.
Wars, like recent Star Trek, I think takes it too far. Now we don't need to get into. We can get into this in an episode where it
Sure.
comes into play. But like, especially like the season finale of Picard season one, where it's like there were 3,000 starships against 4,000 starships. I remember when there was a lot of tension when two Klingon birds of prey uncloaked, and we were like, "Oh shit, there's more than
Right.
one."
Mm.
I think we've now overcorrected in Star Trek with scale. My bigger issue with scale is we treat every planet like a city. Like every
Yes.
planet is one city, and there's never, and it's not a, there's you can't explore that much in a single episode when you're like hopping from
Of course.
planet to planet. But I would love it if the worlds were a little more diverse. And I feel like Deep Space Nine did that a lot, where you'd have like a class issue. There was some at TNG that did it as well.
Mm.
Like the Kesprit on in
Yes.
Attached. I love that episode. It's gonna come up a lot, guys. Or but especially TOS and especially early TNG, like it's like they visit cities, or like there's a colony that's like the whole planet, and this like terraformed colony, it's just like what, 1,000 people, that's
Mm.
it on the whole planet. Yeah, so that's my bigger issue with scale. But Star Wars does it too. Once it gets to like thousands and thousands of droids fighting other thousands of droids, and
Attack
it's just
clones.
like too much, too much,
Yeah.
too
Yeah,
much.
exactly. No, I agree completely. You're so right when it comes to cities on planets. Like
Yep.
take this for example. This entire plot happens around the lake in a park, you know? And we see many shots from space where it is a huge, blue, green, brown planet. There's obviously so much to explore, but no, we're going to the lake.
Right.
All right then. And you're right, it happens so. I mean, any planet-bound episode, generally, you get something like this.
Right.
I think
But
they now lean
that's
into the joke of it almost.
so. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I liked about this episode. I did like that McCoy died because it was quite like that was quite shock. I was not expecting that. Like it did surprise me. There were things in this that did surprise me, and I thought that was pretty risky, and um yeah, I liked that. And I mean, you always love seeing the Vasquez rocks.
Hmm.
Um I think that's probably about it. What are your favorite things from the episode?
So McCoy is probably my least favorite thing from the episode because he's written quite poorly. He's written like a
I
creep
like
in this
ladies
episode.
as princesses, baby. Why don't you put on this gown? Dr. Daddy like.
Creep,
I mean, this
creepy.
is a direct quote from the episode.
Oh no.
I mean, like, even to the Dr. Daddy bit. But actually, although she's not used amazingly, I do like Barrow. I like her. I would have liked to have seen her again. Because she has a personality. And for a lot of the day players, they don't normally get that. And in fact, case in point, one of the first faces you see in the episode is Lieutenant Leslie. Now, he will go on to appear in dozens of episodes. He only gets a few speaking lines throughout all of Star Trek, but he's an example of a day player that we have kind of retroactively assigned a personality to. Whereas Barrow, in this one episode, yeah, she gets, she kind of, she gives the captain her piece of her mind a little bit. It's like, I don't see your name on the shore list or shore leave list. What's going on? And although, yeah, 1960s and representation of women in the future, not amazing. And
They make it her idea. She says, I think women should be princesses. They have her say it, and then him go along with it.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. Oh, look at that little dress. Why don't you put that on for Daddy?
Gross, 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 gross. I was like,
direct quote.
I'm just reading the script.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I like that you have. I always love a guest character and one that like feels like they're integrated with the crew. That's like that they've been there for a while and there's like a sense of familiarity, even if it's the first time we as the viewers see them. I like that because it makes the ship feel bigger and yeah, that's the scale, by having these characters that maybe we didn't see but are sort of like have pre-existing relationship with the main crew. I like that. Did I like Barrow specifically? And no, and it wasn't. And also getting into things I didn't like about the episode, homophobic, to have her hair constantly frizzed all over the place on that planet. Where was the homosexual making sure that her hair was right in these shots? Homophobic.
I mean, I can't say you're wrong.
She just had
Also-
flyaways all over the place, just like all of them, all the men perfectly groomed. There they are, looking great on camera, and her hair is just like all over the place. And you know what? Beverly Crusher's hair and Deanna Troy's hair for a while, homophobic. Where were the faggots? They needed to be involved in these productions.
Some of Crusher's hairstyles were,
Mm.
and of course, Space Barbie from Encounter at Farpoint, as Marina Sirtis calls her.
Mm. Yeah.
And also there is no way that Finnegan and Kirk were going to finish their day by fighting. So, but there were gays present. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Also, the weird. Why do we always need to rip a shirt? It's like we need to show distress. Just tear his tunic. Tear her tunic. There's a lot of. I hope the Enterprise has a tailor because they need a Garrick because man, we're ripping tunics left and right.
Also, fun fact about this one is I will give you a shiny nickel if you can tell me the moment Kirk rips his shirt.
Well, you don't see it. Isn't it just like it's a fight and then suddenly the camera cuts and it's like now his shirt is
Exactly.
ripped. No, yeah, you never. Well, because I mean, I'm sure they couldn't. They were probably for time trying to film this as quickly as possible and get it done, and they just didn't have the ability, like the time to like set up the stunt to actually. And they probably did. They probably had one shirt. They were like, we rip it, it's done. Like we don't have time to do a million takes with different shirts.
Exactly. Yeah, you're dead right with the filming. This was being rewritten on the fly.
I'm sure. It seems so.
They started filming without a proper script, and which look happens a lot. But apparently, there's I was looking at Memory Alpha there, which is an amazing resource, and it was just saying apparently the cast and crew remember Gene Roddenberry sitting under the tree, furiously writing notes to try and keep the episode in budget.
All right, so we don't like Creepy Doctor. We don't like ripped shirts. You know what the ripped shirt always reminds me of? Something else I don't like, but has nothing to do with this episode. So
Sure.
So TNG was my, and I've talked about it already in the last episode. TNG was my like childhood. TNG was my, they were my action figures. I had every single one of those Playmates action figures. I had stuff all over the house. And it always infuriated me that the only Riker they made in his proper uniform had that rip on his chest.
Mm-hmm.
The fuck? Why did we do that? Like, I want just a Riker in his uniform looking normal. But they like put this weird, and there's no episode where he has that rip. Like, why?
It's because this doesn't excuse it, but Riker was the new Kirk, and they hadn't a clue what to do with him for the first couple of seasons, which is why I'm almost pleasantly surprised that we got so many good Riker moments in those first couple of years, because they were just like, make him Kirk.
Right.
Don't know what's going on here. And Jonathan Frakes was able to bring a great performance out of that.
Right.
But it's so funny you should mention about that particular Playmates action figure. Only recently there I saw someone did a cosplay of that figure.
That's fun.
And it's brilliant. It's where it's the curse, and he's holding the phaser in one hand, and he's got the hand in the palm punch in the other hand. It was so good.
Also, I
but you're
cut
right.
off all the little phaser beams from those toy phasers because I hated it. I snipped them all off.
Yeah,
So it was just
I
a proper
half and
little
halved it.
phaser.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the other thing I'll just mention that I didn't like, I think maybe you liked it based on what you said earlier on, like these the two people whose names I did not commit to memory, who are hiding from the tiger and get shot by a samurai plane. These extras. I like day players. Like, I think Barrow is fine, but
Sure.
not to the detriment of where the fuck is Scotty, where Uhura doesn't get much to do. Like, I like them as an addition, not as a substitution from main cast members. It could have been Scotty and Uhura in that place. They could have been down there doing that. I'd rather
hear
see
you.
them. I'd rather see them. Or give them some plot. They're doing, again, it's going to sound like I love this episode, like it's my favorite episode. But again, Arsenal of Freedom, you had them on the planet, but then you had, like, Geordi couldn't get in contact with them, which I think is said I think they can't talk to the ship at some point. And so there should have been some Uhura Scotty scenes of them trying to, like, break through the communications dampening field, or, just something. Just what are they doing? What's the ship doing?
I agree. Like, why does Spock beam down to tell them we only had enough power to beam one person?
Because we want to see Spock in this episode. That's it.
Of course, but like that's it. Like, you're kind of like, Grant, okay, you've delivered the message. Great, go back. Oh, you can't.
At
And you
least
can't let the Enterprise know.
Yeah, at least TNG made a point about every time they'd put the captain on the planet, like, to Riker to be like, nah, I don't think so, and he'd be like, I'm overruling you. They'd at least, like, try to, like, justify it, or, like, give a reason why this person is going down. But yeah, this was just bad. Just bad.
It's not great. It is literally, particularly in this moment where Spock beams down. Sorry, I know Leonard Nimoy, we love seeing you, but Ensign Ricky could have delivered that message.
Right. And, like, why did they have to beam down a person to deliver the message? Couldn't they have, like, beamed down a pad or something that would have been, like, less energy, and then maybe they could reserve the power to send a person later? Again, script written on the fly. This is very much not thought out. And I also didn't like the reveal at the end. There's no hint. There's no, like, the audience figures it out immediately. I figured it out in the teaser. He said Alice in Wonderland. Oh, surprise, there's Alice in Wonderland. Like, oh, there's something that's creating their thoughts or fantasies. I had it figured out in the teaser. Done. And the fact that Sulu is portrayed as a moron, who's like, oh, look, a revolver. Isn't this fucking cool? Like, hi, shouldn't you find this strange, sir?
What I got, because I agree with you completely, but what I got from that, and it went a ways toward making me feel less kind of like, Barrows, seriously, is that I thought there was some sort of doping going on.
Maybe, yeah, okay, I could have seen that.
Now, I agree, it's not telegraphed. I just kind of inferred that. But, like, Sulu was like, I'll just fire some live rounds here. That's grand. Nothing could possibly go wrong.
So weird. And then just so that there's no, you see the little antenna thing, but other than that, the, like, oh, hey, we're a race of people, and this is a pleasure planet, and we create your thoughts, and you guys aren't ready for it, so get the fuck out. Like, it was just very, like, I mean, you saying that they were writing it on the fly makes sense, because it sounds like that was just, like, tacked on at the end of, like, oh, we got to explain what's going on here. Like, there was no build to it. There was no mystery. There was no... It was really just a series of vignettes, and then, oh, by the way, this is why this all happened, and do you want to fuck Plastic Ruth? Great. Done. Ta-da.
Yep.
McCoy was dead. Oopsie whoopsie. Haha. Don't do that again, please.
It's like, grand. Wait a minute, where's Veronica? How dare you ask? Sorry, no, Angela. I was meant to. Anyway, Angela was the other
Did
one's
not
name.
commit their names to memory.
Yeah. No, I trust me. I IMDb'd this. I did not know. I did not remember. But like, okay. But yes. So okay. So now you're asking me about 45 minutes ago. What did I not like about the episode?
Right.
I agree with pretty much everything you said there. I didn't like that. Kind of. Oh, it's a pleasure planet. Didn't you know? Well, beam the whole crew down. Also, why couldn't they just beam the whole crew down to begin with? Why introduce that thing of, oh, we
Right.
can't beam up or beam out of here? So there's all of that. And I mean, like, of course, Sulu encounters a samurai warrior because, God forbid, he could engage in some drunken Irish boxing. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Creepy.
yeah.
Gross.
And just, I thought as well, like, particularly like about the actual making of the episode, the fight between Kirk and Finnegan, it feels so long.
Oh, they had time to kill. They did not film enough.
Yes.
They just like, we need to pad this episode.
Absolutely, and they do. I think this could have been, if you were to take, now I have the hindsight of 60 years of what the franchise has done behind me.
Of course.
If you took this idea and made a short trek out of it, I think
Sure.
there could be a fun short trek in that. Same crew, like, I'm edited down maybe. I'm not sure, but this 50 minutes was an ask for this episode.
Yeah.
And he says that if I heard that fiddly idle violin one more time, it was going up someone's arse.
They always after me, Lucky Charms. All right. Well, I think we have. So I have no memory of getting, seeing this. This is the first time I saw this episode, so I don't have any past with this episode. Do you have any past with this episode?
Not past per se. I do remember it because the image of the white rabbit, more than anything else, always stood out to me because it's such an outlandish image.
I remember it with respect to there was a book called Star Trek Chronology that I would get, and they updated. There were several editions of it, and it would put the episodes and then the events and references within the episodes in sort of a chronological timeline.
Okay.
So you'd have things where you're in 2354, and don't come at me, nerds. Like, I don't have this. I'm not pulling out a fact that I know. But like 2354, that's when the Enterprise C went missing, or like, it would go through like
45 Jack. Oh my god! Like, come on, this is basic stuff here. That's 2345. The Battle of Narendra 3. Oh my god.
Well, I said 2354. Maybe I'm dyslexic, and you need to save space for my struggles, and I feel attacked, and I'm canceling you on the internet. I'm trying to find a way to turn off my notifications because for some reason at 8 in the morning everyone wants to text me, and
well, if you're with me, they'll want to know that you survived the night. That's why.
No, it's people who want things from me. Be it money or favors. So the only I remember the picture of the white rabbit next to this episode existing in the timeline, and that's the picture they used for like the anyway. So I remember the image of the white rabbit and being like, the fuck is this? But yeah, I have no TOS history. Well, I think we have explained quite well why this episode needs zhuzhing. So right after this break, we will each take you through our ideas, which we have not shared with each other yet. We're going to share with each other live on how to make Shore Leave an A+ episode. All right, Sean, zhuzh this episode.
Right, okay, so for this episode, I want to go, like, you have been handed the keys to a holodeck that creates things entirely from your mind. So I say we go and we play with that idea a lot more than they did here. And by doing that, I would strip nearly all of the real characters out of this episode. We're still going to have them appear, but it won't be the Kirk, the Spock that you know. Because I would say leave the cold open exactly the same. Change nothing. Right?
You're fully into the back rub. You want that back rub. No, that's
Oh,
Act
yes.
1. That's Act 1.
That's Act
Sorry,
One.
no.
That's
Teaser
Act
is...
One. But also, I
Boy
mean,
Spot.
let's make sure the back rub is in there.
Mm.
But no, you have Sulu and you have McCoy walking on the planet. McCoy mentions Alice in Wonderland. He looks up, sees the white rabbit, sees Alice. We cut to the credits, okay? Act 1, McCoy goes down the rabbit hole. And, like, I'm going to sum it up really, really quickly. Rename this episode McCoy in Wonderland. And completely lean into the Alice in Wonderland element of the story. Have your regulars as the various characters from Alice in Wonderland. So you have McCoy will be, yes, Alice will appear in the cold open, but McCoy is Alice in this situation. So the only real character you'll have for most of the episode is just McCoy, and obviously Sulu, but he's still up by the lake, playing with his gun. And so go down the rabbit hole in Act 1, okay? And then you land and you have your usual kind of discombobulation of what on earth is going on. Also because it's very rare we see McCoy silly.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I want to lean into that a little bit here because DeForest Kelly can do silly. It's when they give him, we're gonna edge the creepiness out of this a little bit. So I want him to come across the Mad Hatter's tea party. So we have our White Rabbit unchanged, Mad Hatter, Spock.
Mm-hmm.
Because who would be least likely to be the Mad Hatter?
All right, I want to guess. Let me guess up front, since I haven't heard any of it, who I think you're casting the characters as.
All right, okay.
And you don't have to tell me now, but then we'll find out as you go through it. So this is my guess. I'm guessing Uhura is the caterpillar. I'm guessing because I can
Okay.
see it kind of done almost seductively, and not to like make the woman seductive, but I mean this probably that'd be the least of our worries with the actual episode of what they've done to Barrow. But like seeing her with the smoke and like sort of the hookah aspect of it, I could see Nichelle Nichols really chewing that up. Okay, so what other characters do we have? We've got the Queen of Hearts. Well, I guess maybe that would be because it's the female character. Maybe that would be her. But I could also see that being Chekhov, being like, oh, is Chekhov on the ship yet? No,
Not in season 1.
no, he's
so
not.
he's
in
not
season
here
one.
yet.
No, he's not here yet. So I could be that being Sulu. I could see him being a bit nuts. What other characters do we? I'm trying to remember my.
So we have Tweedledum, Tweedledee.
Tweedledum,
we have the Jabberwocky as our villain.
Jabberwocky.
We
All right,
have...
so Kirk as Jabberwocky then, and Tweedledum, Tweedledee. Who's left? Scotty and who's left? It would have to be like I think that's the cast. The main cast is out.
Okay, all right.
Anyway,
so
all right. That was my guess. I have no idea. Let's keep going. Take us through the rabbit hole, Sean.
Okay, so through the rabbit hole, we get to the Mad Hatter's tea party. We have Spock is our Mad Hatter, and we have our White Rabbit there as well, who is just going to say remain as the White Rabbit. The Cheshire Cat I have as Uhura.
I see that too. Okay, same sort of concept, like the mystical, magical one.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah.
Exactly. So, she is going to be the one that is going to be sort of as like the Cheshire Cat, like the guide for McCoy throughout the whole episode. And I just love that because Uhura, Nichelle Nichols can do sultry. She can do sexy. And the Cheshire
Is there
Cat,
a fan dance?
There is now a fan dance in the episode, but by a cat. That it is essential that it is done by her as the cat.
As a cat.
Yeah.
With the same wardrobe quality as the White Rabbit from the actual episode.
Oh, no doubt. But using the same fronds from Star Trek 5. And I'm sorry, if they can't make that sexy, that's on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The furry community is delighted.
Oh, but that's it's ours is a very open community. Tweedledum and Tweedledee played by James Doohan.
Okay, I got that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. And of course, they will be working for the Queen of Hearts, James T. Kirk.
Okay, see that. Okay.
And this will give Shatner his chew the scenery, chew it all, chew it to the back seats.
Right.
Because why wouldn't you?
Right.
Why wouldn't you? The only one I'm struggling to cast really is the Jabberwocky, because I don't think George Takei works for the Jabberwocky in this scenario. So we might have a double up. Might even have McCoy is the Jabberwocky as well.
Ooh, I like that. I like that because I am my own enemy. I like that. I like that. There's themes in that could be played. Yep.
Exactly. And then basically the episode. Now, I know I'm supposed to break it down act by act, but really it's kind of a whole piece.
Right.
And it's the 60s. It's everyone's on LSD in this thing. Everyone is all over the place, and it's all about playing with perceptions, playing with the mind, having fun, so that when we get to the end, which is the caretaker there, it's less of a, oh, you really need to end this, and more of a, I really, really like what we just experienced, is how I've written it. Now, as a writer, I have not done a fantastic job, but I like my idea.
So wait, so the message that you wanted, the 1960s message of this episode is, y'all, LSD is the shit.
Basically, I'm taking the message of the book Alice in Wonderland.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This is a pro-drug
this
episode.
Is get off your tits and watch Star Trek. This version of the episode.
Tasha Yar would be so disappointed in you.
Yeah, but Ishari Yar's all for it.
Right. But Tasha, why would someone do drugs? Well, Wesley.
It's fine. That's a great episode.
The more you know.
Nancy
it is. It's
Reagan,
probably the best episode from. Probably the best episode from season 1.
It did give us the last appearance of Merrick Buttrick, though.
And you know what was okay? So another. I forget what they're called. There's another Trek YouTube. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about rivals, but there's another Trek YouTube channel that, well, they're not Trek. They do movies in general, but they like Star Trek, so they do Trek a lot. And they reviewed season 1 of TNG, and they pointed out to me that the other guy in Symbiosis is Khan's right-hand man.
So yes, I don't know what
Joaquin,
the captain, or the Joaquin is the character. Yes.
Yeah.
Judson Scott is the actor's name.
So you have a Wrath of Khan reunion
role,
or a TOS. Because he wasn't credited as that.
Yes, he wasn't credited for Wrath of Khan, exactly, and he would return again in Star Trek Voyager.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. Sorry, I have this weird, I really care about his career. Because he's a huge part of Wrath of Khan, and through agent read the fine print and do a better job. He wasn't credited at all for Wrath of Khan. But you're dead right. Yes, he is the supplier.
All right, so we've got an pro LSD episode.
Yep.
You lean heavily into the Alice in Wonderland. You've got regular characters playing. So for me, it's very Barclay's Holodeck Adventures, where they're all playing like the Three Musketeers. Like it's that. It's a McCoy-centric episode, which so I assume then that, like, do we see any snippets of like the regular crew trying to like figure out where McCoy is? Is Sulu like looking for him?
Nope. I say we leave Sulu in the cold open, and then in the coda, I personally would be happy if it was just the communicator. But if we want to be like, all right, give the audience a breath of fresh air, we maybe go back to find Sulu, but that's it. But
it's also future imperfect. It's also future imperfect, kinda.
So keep an eye out for Minuet.
Oh yeah, that's that. I mean, we gotta talk about that episode sometime. That's one of my favorites too. Also, does McCoy die?
Not in this version. Like the Jabberwocky, sure, but no, McCoy in this version, we're following him. It's his story, so he's our protagonist. So off as many of the rest of them as you like, that's fine with me. But except who Cheshire Cat has to live.
I find it interesting that you eliminated something from the episode that you really liked, which was the day players and Barrow and like having all that. So I assume they're just not, like, they don't exist.
If we must reuse them, they can be, soldiers for the Queen of Hearts. But no, I think we've got a tighter story by taking our regular faces, basically kind of like you were saying, like not sacrificing our regulars to give the day players something more to do. I think in the episode as released, it was grand, it was fun, it was nice, but the episode as released is not a good episode.
Right.
It's just little short stories. Whereas this is, I want this to be a fever dream for the duration. Also, I don't care what it costs. We pay the rights to Jefferson Airplane and we just keep playing White Rabbit over and over again for the whole episode.
So this is a good point to segue. This is a good point to mention. I think we should mention it at some point in every episode that naturally, we are huge fans of the franchise, and we are in no way impugning the writers or the creators of this episode. Obviously, you've got studio pressures and budget pressures and all sorts of stuff that two homosexuals, 50 years later, 60 years later, don't have.
Coming up on 60. Yeah.
Right, and we have hindsight and
Exactly.
time and all of this stuff. So we love even what we think are the most zhuzhable episodes of the franchise, and appreciate all of our creators and people who gave us things that are so integral to our lives as Star Trek fans. So we do. This is all in good humor. This is all in good. This is a podcast of fan fiction. So let me take you down my rabbit hole.
I would very much like that. Yes. Now,
that-
where are you taking me?
That'll be the name of the eventual video. So okay, I went with the I tried to keep as much of the original episode as possible because I do think the general structure, the fantasy planet, thoughts coming to life, mystery, on paper, that all works. I like this being in. So you went full fantasy. I went use it as a way to explore some inner character moment, and I kept it a Kirk episode. Okay. I also eliminated. So because we have to judge this is something that would have been done in the 60s. Like, they have the budget they have. They had what they had. Like, I'm not imagining that they can put 5,000 starships in this thing or CGI. So I eliminated the Alice in Wonderland piece of it because it only shows up in the teaser. So
Yep.
I didn't take that and run. I changed it so that they could do costumes that wouldn't be silly. So what
hear
I
you.
did instead, I kept the teaser the same in terms of what it does, and that it's McCoy and Sulu on the surface. Okay. What I need in this episode, certainly, is I need a little more routine from the two of them that explains to us how shore leave works on ships pre-holodeck. Now, obviously, at the time, there wasn't even the concept of a holodeck. Like, it's not like Enterprise where they're like showing the past when we know what comes. But like, give us a little like, okay, you have the doctor and a team go down. You're analyzing, potential toxins. You're looking for hidden technology. You're looking for like, show me what the routine is of evaluating a planet for shore leave, since you can't do shore leave on the ship. Like, give me the routine. What's Starfleet protocol? What are they doing? So give me a little more of that. McCoy goes off. He makes a comment about how long it's been since they've had shore leave and how necessary it is and how fortunate it is they have this, planet, which seems ideal because he has cabin fever. He feels like Rapunzel in the tower.
Ooh.
Is his reference. He goes away to go continue doing what he's doing, and he comes upon the tower. And Rapunzel drops her hair and says to him, hurry, she'll be back soon. The witch from the story. She'll be back soon, save me, whatever. Giving him, again, laying on the princess fantasy, but instead of doing it as a woman of Star Trek era who is probably a scientist, command officer, like, let's not have her be, I just always wanted to be a silly princess. Let's not do that. Let's actually just make it a figment of imagination so we can keep the theme but less icky, because it's obviously fake and it's from the story. So anyway, and we end on a McCoy like, the fuck is this, right? Now, Act 1, we go, okay, so thoughts about me eliminating Alice in Wonderland and substituting for a different sort of princess thing.
So my is I'm fine with it because now we have my full episode and your full episode, and nary the two shall cross, which is grand. Which actually works with me. And I can see, or I think I can see the direction your episode is going. And yes, the White Rabbit is, well, in the televised episode, my episode and your episode, it is the most ridiculous thing in it because it's a giant bunny suit.
Do you think Do you think one of the producers or costume people just like had this and was like, "Yo, we should use this. This is cool," and like
Exactly, 'cause
just
it was in such
created
a
a
small
reason to
amount.
use it? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, because it doesn't affect the plot at all. Again,
No.
but yes, okay, I really like that. So Rapunzel in the Tower, I
Right.
like that. I have an interesting note written down. I'm not going to say it till the end,
Cool.
but that's really interesting. Okay, what else
So,
you got for me?
so I am trying to keep for this one because I feel with Sub Rosa I like completely redid it. For this one, I'm trying to track to the episode and just fix it along the way. So we continue through the episode. Instead of starting on the bridge, there are 0 back rubs, 0. There's also no Barrow, and there's no rando people on the planet. I also got rid of the day players. So
Cool.
Spock and Kirk are walking to the bridge. We get something else I liked from the episode, or I don't know if I liked, and you can tell me. Does this happen in TOS a lot? Captain's log, stardate 24734. Like he does like
Oh,
an
no.
in the number. I'm like
No, this one is purely he's stressed out. He's not
that. Oh,
focusing.
that's
What this is
supposed to
for.
be stress. Okay, I was like, that's the best take they got. Like I was really, I was like, what the hell is this with the star date? He doesn't know what day it is. Okay, I get it. I get it now why they did it. Okay, but anyway, so you get your captain's log. We're overdue for shore leave. We found a planet. Team's investigating. He's walking with Spock to the bridge. They have a conversation that it looks like initial reports is going to be good for shore leave. Spock recommends that Kirk goes. That Spock's sort of like trying to get out of Kirk what's been. We get a sense that Kirk's been sort of mopey and down for a while, for a couple weeks, and hasn't really said anything. And maybe he's been short with people, whatever. And so Kirk finally reveals to him that he got a communique that his academy love, Ruth, has just married Finnegan, his
Okay.
rival from the academy. And it's sort of this is where I wrote down Antonia in my notes. It's another sort of like roads not taken regret that he prioritized, almost a Riker Troy, that he prioritized his career, it pulled them away, and it was like his first love. And so, he had been over it for a while, but when he got the news, it sort of opened up old wounds, and he can't believe that of all the people, and I can see Kirk doing it like, but Finnegan, like of all people, she ended up with Finnegan, you know. He hasn't been able to shake it. He hasn't been able to let it go. And maybe Spock drills it, questions a little bit, and you find out that Kirk was always about his career and duty and moving on, and Finnegan was fun. He knew how to have fun, and Ruth probably liked that. Okay, so we set that up. So we get to the bridge. We get the call from McCoy. We have that. I loved that Spock Uhura moment about why it felt very Data, why shore leave seems stupid. My culture doesn't do it. I loved that, and I want to keep that. So we, McCoy replies with the mystery. Now it's sort of like Kirk doesn't want to go on the shore leave, but now it's like, well, now you have to go figure this out. So it looks like you got to go anyway. So he beams down. Tower is gone, but McCoy is insistent that it was there. So I'll stop there to get your comments about my sort of setting up Ruth Finnegan and why it's on Kirk's mind and what it is early. Thoughts on that?
Definitely, it gives more than the episode as televised does.
Right.
Like, we have never heard of Finnegan. We have never heard of Ruth. And even say, in your version, we've still not heard of them, but you do have that preamble as to why they would be on Kirk's mind, particularly at this point in time. So yeah,
Right.
I really like that. That's good. And as you say, because Finnegan in the episode as released is he's chaotic. He's like a clown. He's just always gambling
Right.
and laughing and everything, which is, when you think back in your life to someone who always used to be fun, what do you think of? Is them laughing and the laughter around them. You don't think about the
Yeah.
times they stubbed their toe,
Right.
So that really fits that. And, you think back to this person you were super attracted to. What do you think? You think of an
Mhm.
idealized version of themselves. There's Ruth.
Right.
So yes,
Eh,
really, really like that.
And thing I forgot to mention, which is important because I'm seeing it in my notes and it comes up. In the teaser, when McCoy says something about like feeling like Rapunzel in the tower, and he walks away from Sulu to go do his thing, I need Sulu to say something like sort of to himself, some sort of like, I always preferred the Jungle Book. Because it's Sulu that gets tormented by the tiger, which is Shere Khan.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Because we take out the revolver, we take out the samurai. It's Sulu's very like okay. So the we figure out early that because we either see the tiger or Ruth shows up for the first time, and like the audience, we figure out early. Like Kirk, they know. Like something is reading our minds and creating these things. You know, maybe Sulu, when they're talking about what happened, Sulu remembers like, didn't you said that to me about about Rapunzel? And then there was, yes, I did say that to you. You know, they've maybe encountered something else. They figure it out very early that something is reading their minds and creating these things. And Kirk his hypothesis is that it's holographic technology, that like these are holograms that are appearing, so that, and the reason I want him to have this hypothesis early is I don't want him to take this all very seriously. It's silly, it's some sort of game, it's a child's toy, it's something, it's not that serious, guys, let's just go but it is interesting technology, we should figure out where it's coming from and you know what it is, because you know we don't have anything like this is obviously advanced technology, we should figure out who's running it. Okay, so that's what they're there to do now they're trying to just figure out where it's coming from, scan, try to figure out. Okay, however, we start the stakes, the danger starts playing now. So first Kirk, they split up, they do like a you go that way, I go that way, you go that way. Kirk encounters Ruth, and we can have a real sort of he the whole time is fully aware that she's an illusion or a hologram of some sort, and we can have him sort of have like a dramatic moment, like a good scene, sort of exploring like he's taking the opportunity to maybe tell Ruth the things he never said, or confront her about like, how could you end up with that guy, yada yada. We can have a good like Kirk moment. I wish I could have been this for you, you know, just something that gives us more Kirk and his personality and his regrets. And Finnegan, when his name is invoked, then suddenly shows up, and because Kirk believes this all to be holograms and knows that this isn't real, he like gives Finnegan a piece of his mind. Finnegan says some shit that Kirk doesn't like, and Kirk takes a swing because he knows this is all fantasy. And he's thinking it's just he's gonna like go through the illusion, and it hits and hurts because it's like, you know, some robot. It's not a hologram, and it maybe even just like breaks his hand, and he's very much and now we're like, what are you? You know, like that's the sort of the surprise. Like, no, this is more than it appears. These are not illusions. These are not holograms. We then get Sulu. Now that we know there's actual danger here, because a fight has started between Finnegan and Kirk's getting his ass beat. Now we see the tiger, and now we're afraid for Sulu, because we know that this is all very real. At the same time, now the other thing that's going on is McCoy is now with the Rapunzel. Rapunzel reappears, and he's there to like protect her or save her from something that's coming. And instead, her actual prince shows up and sees McCoy as like a challenger to Rapunzel's hand, and challenges him to some duel or something. And McCoy doesn't have anything, and McCoy does get stabbed and die. So you keep the death. So it's this escalating like, oh no, there is actual danger here. And then culminating with, we have the death of a character. We hear Rapunzel scream. That is what brings everybody then together to find a dead McCoy. Kirk's all, you know, beaten up and whatever. Sulu is like, you know, like everyone is very like on high alert because of what's been going on. They realize that McCoy is dead. They now absolutely must find what this is, and like it raises the need to figure out what's going on. I'll stop here for comments.
I like this, and I was thinking as you were talking to us, so as we get these little reveals, Finnegan is solid, McCoy dies, and it's this feeling of escalation. I feel that going into now, I'll be interested to see where you bring this, that everyone is on high stress, high alert, which means your thoughts are going to start changing. You're going to have different reactions, and that is going to play into what starts to appear. I think this could be the greatest nightmare planet ever made, but I want to see obviously where you take this. I like how close you're sticking to the original as well.
Yeah, I think there are other ones I'll probably like completely rewrite, but this one I just felt like the format, the mystery, the concept were solid. It was the execution and like the tightness of the script. So we they're trying to they can't figure out where the technology is coming from. They can't figure out what's going on. As they're over McCoy's body, suddenly like a group of you know Kirk explains about like Finnegan being like they're real, but they're not real. Like this was not flesh and blood. This was not it was a machine of some sort, like because he made contact with it, like he knows. So then a bunch of like robot people show up. Kirk tells them to steer clear. He just wants to observe what's going on. They almost like a pallbearer kind of thing. They pick up Kirk's body and just like they're not interacting, almost Borg-like. They're not interacting with them. They just come, they pick up the body, and they go. And they're like, and the team on the surface is basically just like the best thing we have is to follow them. So follows them. That leads them back to whatever base or whatever station that reveals where all this is coming from, because they take McCoy back to it. They enter, and as Kirk and team are about to follow, Finnegan pounces again, and we get our like Finnegan fight. And the tiger shows up, like all of the things, the knight shows up. So we get our big action sequence of like having to like trick or get rid of all of these threats. Escalates. I would like to get to the point where just it's not looking good for our heroes. Kirk is about to be maybe bashed in with like a rock from Finnegan or something, and we hear the like enough, and it's the caretaker with McCoy, and he ends it, and it becomes a like it's the same thing. It's like this is a planet meant for this, but you shouldn't be here because the caretaker in the original is like you're not ready for this, and I want it to be the reason that you're not ready for this is that you're not you can't control your thoughts. Like you as a species, we don't have this. We don't have these errant thoughts. We are in complete control of our faculties. We can like conjure we can control it and conjure things. We can make sure we don't have these errant thoughts and regrets and like this sort of stuff. We only live in the present. And so that's why we can have a planet like this, and it's pure fantasy. But your minds are so chaotic. You're full of memories and regrets and errant thoughts and this and that. This is why it's dangerous for you, and it's not dangerous for our species. And we can have a good speech from Kirk explaining about humanity. That's part of humanity, we think about the past, we project it, we think about the future, we have regrets, that's just part of our nature. And so it's the caretakers, it's a less civilized civilization, us, have stumbled upon a technology, and it's all a big accident. Like this shouldn't be happening, it wasn't designed this way. So that and because they're advanced and we've set them up as advanced, when accidents do happen, because accidents do happen, they do have the medical technology, and that's how McCoy was healed. They agree to leave, basically, that they can't handle this planet, and before leaving, the caretaker is sort of like because of he feels bad for what has happened, because this was a huge mistake and misunderstanding. And is there anything I'd like to do something for you, to just express our apologies and our regrets. And he gives Kirk a moment with Ruth to say what he wants to say and say goodbye. And that's the end of the episode, and they beam up.
I like that. McCoy dies, but Kirk gets the moment with Ruth.
Right.
But I really like that. I really like that. So I can actually, right, my note that I wrote at the start, which I thought was going to be, oh crap, no, this is not going to be applicable at all, because when you mentioned Rapunzel's tower, I was like, oh. But actually, so both last week and this week, I realized that your judging has tried to ground the episodes a little bit more, whereas I've gone well into the realms of just fantasy. Last week we had the full-on Anne Rice witching hour of Sub Rosa, and this time we have let's just do Alice in Wonderland and cast the crew of the Enterprise. Whereas you have taken, in your version of Shore Leave, you've taken the idea that was there to begin with, tightened it up, given, frankly, more reason for things to happen, and then the greatest fantasy element is like, sure, there's Rapunzel, which is Rapunzel is the white rabbit of your story. I like as well. Now, did I hear you right? Did we actually get to see this fabulous factory that's mentioned in the episode, but there was no way the 1960s budget was ever going to cover?
No, so I in mine I tried to keep the 60s budget in mind because this could, and that's the reason the White Rabbit is gone and I made it Rapunzel. It's like, what costume could they have done that it would have worked and have been fine and not been silly, and trying to keep something from that whole princess thing and just make it a non-icky thing. That's why I went Rapunzel. But no, you don't see the factory because I was trying to keep this, because we could judge these episodes and we could just completely reinvent them, and then it becomes, I don't know if that becomes entertaining. I think our listeners probably want us to try to, it's a zhuzh, not a reinvention, not a rewrite. So I wanted to keep the 60s budget in mind, and so I think what you see is it's sort of like door in a rock face kind of thing, and they don't get
like the
inside, right? And they don't get inside because they get ambushed right there, and then Caretaker and McCoy emerge, so we don't see it, but
I like it a lot. I'll be interested now, so to yourself obviously and to everyone who's listening, we would love to hear. So
yes,
do we stick to the kind of grounded, is it hard sci-fi? Okay, Jack, can you help me with this? I'm terrible. Hard sci-fi is grounded in fact. Basically, soft sci-fi is magic can happen. Am I right in that?
I've got a semi-sci-fi right now. So...
Okay, good. So yes, which introduces the wild third option. I love it. Let us know what you prefer. Do you want us to go, or do you prefer in this context the wild fantasy, or Jack's holodeck? That's what I'm going to call it. Whereas mine is LSD is good, kids.
drugs or holodecks. That's your choice. So yes, we will put in the podcast notes wherever you're listening to this, how you can reach out to us. We have an Instagram. We have we'll be starting a Patreon. Please reach out to us. We want to know, which version of this did you prefer? Do you have other suggestions? And we'll read them on the future episodes. So let us know. But it has come to that point in the show where I tell you what we're reviewing next week.
I am excited.
So I was very tempted to move us to Voyager. And I'm
nearly guessing which episode you were thinking of as well.
Space lizards be fucking. But I had a last minute change of heart. Literally 5 minutes before we started recording, and I'm like, nah, we gotta do These Are the Voyages. Enterprise, These Are the Voyages.
Okay, yes, because I can't wait to completely erase that from history. My struggle is that we have to accept the fact that it exists just to do the podcast. But no, I say we do this. Let's give Enterprise the send-off it deserves.
Now, I will warn people now, I didn't watch a lot of Enterprise. I watched some. I watched like the first season until I couldn't anymore, and then I went and watched what people put on their list of sort of like the best episodes. So I don't have a full sort of... So my version is probably going to stick. It's going to keep a lot of the concept, which people don't like, and just make it a better execution of the concept.
Okay.
So I know that there are going to be listeners who are like, make it an enterprise-only enterprise thing that goes off the Zindi War or whatever. I don't have that backstory, and I'm not going to be able to watch all of Enterprise in the amount of time in order to like do that justice. So we'll leave that to Sean's possible zhuzhing. My zhuzhing, I'm going to keep the parts of it you hate. So uh, set phasers to cancel.
But please do tune in. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, don't worry.
All right,
And
I'm really interested to see what you do. Actually,
right.
yeah. Well, we'll talk about it at the time. I'm very interested to see what you do with These Are the Voyages.
Yes, I have a thought. All right, so I hope you have enjoyed our little zhuzhing this week, zhuzhing a TOS episode. If you haven't caught our previous episode, make sure you get all of your Ghost Candle sex from episode 1. We will be back at you next week with These Are the Voyages. If you would like to watch these episodes with us, if a Patreon where we can do a viewing of these episodes before we record would be interesting to you, let us know. If there's any merch that you would like, basically, we want to craft this to our audience. So if you're listening to us and you enjoy us and you want, there's stuff from us that you want or different segments of the episode, let us know. We want the feedback. So drop into our DMs and we'll see you next week.
See you soon.